So I've got this Epiphone Explorer here, and there's a little bit of a problem with this potentiometer. You can see it's kind of loose here, and basically I tried tightening it, and it seemed like no matter how much I tightened it, well, when I was tightening it, it was in two states. It was either really loose like this, where you could turn it and it was definitely moving around inside the cavity, or it would tighten to the point where basically the shaft would freeze and it wasn't moving at all. And so I didn't understand what was happening, and now I've figured it out, and now I'll show you. So first we'll take this knob off, then we're just going to loosen this guy up here. Then we're going to flip the guitar over, take it out, take a look, and then we're going to replace it with a new pot. So now we're just going to take off this back control plate, which actually still has the plastic on it. You're going to be careful when you're doing this not to let your screwdriver sort of jump up and ding your finish. I mean, guitars are meant to be played and whatnot, but I don't know. It's good to at least try to be careful, when you're doing service like this. Alright, and also a little pro tip, sometimes control panels like this, you get the screws off and they're not coming out, and you could just sort of take one of your screws and kind of hook it like that. This one wasn't actually stuck in there, but sometimes they are, and that's something that you can do, is just use the thread of the screw to just pop it out. Okay, so I guess just quick things. This one is already shielded, so there's some conductive paint inside of here. It's just you take just some like clear glue basically, and mix a bunch of carbon powder with that, and you can make conductive paint. And that's that you can buy it commercially, but that's really it's pretty simple stuff. It's just some pretty standard glue with a bunch of carbon powder mixed into it, and this is some like aluminized film or something. Anyways, that's not what we're here to do or talk about. It's this potentiometer here. So I loosen it on the other side so it can come out here, and now look at this. This is cracked and it's broken. See, a piece of it just came out of my hand. This this part here that the shaft goes through has broken, and so basically as I was tightening it, it wasn't actually tightening, this was just spinning, and then maybe it would catch on something and I could tighten it more, but that thing it was catching on was probably jamming the shaft so that it couldn't turn. So yeah, I have never seen something like that happen with a potentiometer. But yeah, that's something. So we're gonna take it out and replace it with another one. This one's a 500K pot. I bought another one that's sort of the same, form factor as a full-size pot. I had some of the smaller ones, the mini pots, to put in here, and normally I would do that, but I'm actually thinking about selling this guitar, and sometimes people can be funky about what size pots they have in their guitars, so figure might as well just stick with the the kosher size. So one more thing, if you're ever doing something like this, obviously you're going to be using a soldering iron. Take some paper towels, or actually better than paper towels, like regular old towel or like some old t-shirt or something, and somehow set that up so that you can access the control panel. And man, I'm really struggling with this thing, aren't I? You want to be able to access the control panel, right, and cover up the back of the guitar. So take this, I don't think this is a good idea. We'll just take this kind of like this, yeah, like that, and then I'll just put another piece down here so you can do your soldering work. And if a glob of solder, which ideally you don't have so much on the tip of your soldering iron that it's going to drip, but if you do, You do not want that to drop on the back surface of your guitar. I have learned the hard way. Please just cover it up. It takes you an extra minute, but you'll be very sad if you drop a blob of solder on the back of a guitar. It's just gonna eat through or melt through really your finish, and you're just gonna have like a, you know, solder droplet size just like notch out of it. So yeah, protect the back, please. All right, so we got our solder iron here, and hopefully you got a relatively wide tip on it. You want to maximize the contact area so you get maximal heat transfer. And I'm just going to desolder these wires. See, I just turned this one on, so it may not quite be hot enough yet. We're getting a little bit of wetting there. Not quite. Desoldering from the back of the pots is always quite a challenge because their heat capacity is pretty high. I mean, it's a big metal can, So I turn the temperature on my iron up a little bit. Oh, yeah, it's going. Almost. It's getting a little hot to touch. There we go. Sometimes it takes a minute. Yeah, so you're just going to repeat that for all your contacts here and just, desolder the whole thing and then replace it. Ow. It's a little hot to touch. Okay, let's see if we can do this big one here. I'm going to hold this guy with some pliers so we can really, deliver the heat to it and not have to worry about that heat transferring through this cloth here, which there's a guitar underneath of. Let me tin our tip a little bit. Making sure the tip is properly tinned is going to help a lot too. It was pretty dry there. Kind of see that bubbling a little bit there. See it melting. Go. This thing's pretty toasty. You don't want to touch this with your fingers now. Also, you should probably, hold it with the pliers. Yeah, that's a good idea. Hold it with the pliers, and maybe don't set it down on that cloth, because that cloth is going to protect, if you got like a droplet of solder. But if you put something really hot on here, like there, I don't know, maybe, it's best just to, don't set this down on here. So we can rotate this thing around. See how busted that is. It's crazy. It's like little flakes of it are falling down right now. Turn this thing around. So I can desolder these leads. go. All right, and so our cables are free. Probably try to desolder this capacitor here. There's a lot of times people like swap out capacitors on guitars. I'm just gonna keep the original one in here. Probably do that off camera because I want to get this guitar or move it out from underneath of this, so I'm not like, you know, cooking the surface of it. So things were going well, but as you may be able to guess by this disassembled soldering iron here, they have taken a turn. So this my iron crapped out. So I took it apart and might as well show you guys what's stopped me here. Let's see if I can get this to focus. You see that joint right there? Well, it's not a joint, it's a broken joint. See that right there? Yeah, this wire is loose now. And this isn't, I don't think this is even really a solder joint. It's probably like spot welded or something because this is on the heating element. Your tip is going to be here, and you've got your metal sleeve here, and this is inside of the soldering iron. Yeah, so I think I might have an old iron around here somewhere that maybe I can use. But this thing hasn't even been used that much. This is, well, it's one of those, you know, those cheap, two-in-one stations where you've got your soldering iron and then your, you know, rework gun. Actually, I can just show it to you. It's just off screen here. That guy. This guy right here. It's an eBay unit. It was like 50, 60 bucks or something. Well, if you use it about a dozen times, it may stop working. I'm not going to replace the whole unit. It's just this. I may just order a new heating element. If I can figure out what kind this is, I'll probably just order a new heating element and then just attach it here. You could just solder it to this board here. Focus. Yeah. So you could just remove this assembly and probably solder a new one on there. But anyways, I guess I'll go dig up my other soldering iron and see if it still works. That one's seen some hours. So we'll see. Anyways, yeah. Alright, I found it, but look at this crusty thing. Oh, that's terrible. This is what happens when you don't take care of your soldering iron, kids. Actually, this thing has been used. I built an entire modular synthesizer with this soldering iron from the component level. And about a dozen guitar effects pedals. So it's seen some use. But yeah, I guess if you have two soldering irons, well, if you're gonna solder stuff, I guess you have to have two soldering irons. So, you know, one to use and one to fix the one you use when that breaks. So, what are you gonna do? Alright, so I've got my new pot here, and I guess I'll go ahead and solder this capacitor on here. I did successfully remove from the other one. Again, the main thing when you're doing this is just maximizing surface area of contact between your soldering iron and the shell, or I'm not sure what this thing is actually called, this part right here. You can comment if you know what that's called. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and tack this on here with the new old soldering iron. There's just a little bit on there. Just want to tack it, and I'll put a bigger glob on later. Yeah, that'll work for now. And I'll solder this one right here. This to the wiper right here. One thing you can do when you remove these capacitors is just check their values. If you weren't quick enough doing the soldering job, I guess it's maybe possible that you could cook them a bit and change their values. Measured this one, it's 22 nanofarads, or that's what, 0.022 microfarads. I think those are the units that are used more often when people are talking about guitar circuits. Yeah, okay, so I guess I could just go ahead and resolder this like this. Yeah, I can do this. Alright, and I think I'm going to do these ground leads once I have this thing mounted, because I'm going to have to put a lot of heat into this to get this done. Maybe? I'm thinking about it. What am I going to do here? Okay, let's just try it like this. If it doesn't happen super quick, then I'm going to put it in before I finish the job. So I'll push these guys up on here, and this ground wire will need to go over here too. So press that like that, and make sure your tip's tinned. Alright, that's good enough for now. Probably flow a little bit more onto that off camera. Go ahead and tack down this guy too. Alright, so the deed is done, and I tested everything to make sure it worked. I just plugged in a cable to the output jack here. I was just on the bench here and plugged it into an amp and verified that this tone control is actually working. And so yeah, I guess I can go ahead and take this finish protection off here. This didn't really go according to plan, but you know, it's the repair's done, so that's okay. So we'll just put this pop back in here and tuck away your wires. Then we'll seal it back up, and I'll bolt the pop back in there, and then we'll call it a day. Also, something that I didn't mention before, if you're ever buying replacement potentiometers for guitars, certainly it's really tricky. You can't just order the first pot you see. You need to make sure that it will fit in the instrument that you have. So they have all kinds of different shaft lengths, different types of knobs, sort of USA type or metric type knobs are going to have different flute spacing on the shaft. So say a USA made guitar, that you may not be able to take the knobs off of that and then stick them on an import guitar, just because. Yeah, so I'll just finish sealing this up. So that's a nice finish on this guitar. It's actually a really cool instrument. I picked it up off Craigslist, and I had intended on playing with it a little bit and then maybe selling it again sometime down the road. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Guess I can go ahead and flip this guy back over. pull the pot up through here a bit. Maybe I should have done this before I bolted the before I shut the back on the thing. Yeah, I may need to push on this a little bit from the other side to get it through. Oh man. Yep, so we're taking the control panel off again. Pretty sure this one has the right shaft length. It was the same as the one that I took out. So maybe a wire got jammed underneath of it. Yeah, so I'm learning here. I guess it's a good idea to actually attach the pot to the front of the guitar before you actually button the thing up. Let's see. There's... Oh, I know what it was. This one, this has the hardware on it already. See, yep, that was dumb. Also, sometimes there's a little locating pin on the top of these that you can just grab with a pair of pliers and break off. So if you don't do that, then it's not going to go in straight. You know, the crooked knob. No one wants crooked knob. There we go. Yeah, that should be all right. Let's get that on there a little bit so it doesn't fall back in there. Maybe this plate was actually on in the other orientation. Should be symmetric, but it's usually slightly asymmetric. So if you want your screws to go in sort of straight down, you gotta check and make sure that the holes in your control plate actually line up with the holes in the body. And it's good to turn counterclockwise a little bit until you feel it sort of drop down, and then you can tighten up your screw. It's a good idea to do that with wooden stuff because it's going to be really easy to, you know, strip that out. And it's easy to just rotate it backwards a little bit so that you reuse the same threads instead of cutting new threads into the wood every time. I mean, ideally one wouldn't have to open one of these up very much, but it's best to mitigate, you know, mitigate your footprint. Alright. Now, just put our knob on there. You want to make sure that you have all the knobs rotated as far as they can go in one direction, so when you put it on, it's lined up right. And it looks about right to me. Yeah, there we go. Yep, good as new.